please stop. Do not even consider buying this card. I've had enough of it, okay? I feel like most people, if you're in this space, okay, you know that the 4060 Ti is, well, it's terrible. It's a terrible card. We all know that. But you know who doesn't know that? Normal people who just want to buy a new graphics card. You know, previously, we had the 3060 Ti last gen. That was a great value card, you know, it was performing well. But now, how much? It started off at $400 US MSRP. Hell, I mean, it's gone down a little bit now, but if I have a look in Australia, the cheapest one I can find here is 569 Australian dollars. That's ridiculous. Okay, just first of all, just putting it out there, that's fucking dumb. Do not buy a 4060 Ti for that amount of money. You know, just don't buy one at all. Okay, that's simple enough. Before you start questioning me and be like, why not buy it? You're just fucking saying don't buy it. You're not even giving any I will give you reasons. This card is honestly one of the most egregious instances of Nvidia just fucking not caring about its customers in the gaming sector. Like, clearly they've moved on to bigger things. You've seen their stock prices, bro, they don't care anymore. The value proposition for this card is horrendously bad, and the fact that I see people buying it every day. For context, I work in retail, okay? Know someone who wants to buy a PC and they don't know a lot about parts, please show them this video. Do not buy this graphics card. Let's just go over a few things. First of all, for the same amount of money, okay, you could get something a lot better, okay? Even, of course, eventually I'm going to talk about used graphics cards here, okay? Here is a 5700 XT. If you just want something cheap, okay, I picked this up on eBay for 200 Australian dollars. That's like 150 or less US dollars. That is so much better value for the money. Okay, if you wanted something around a 4060 Ti level performance, guess what? Buy a 3070. Maybe even find one new at a retailer. It'd be hard, and probably can't find them anymore. Let's go to Tech Power Up, okay? Have a look at the RTX 3070 performance. This was already a questionable card, all right, because it had 8GB of VRAM. Moving into the 40 series, they're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Let's have a look at this. Look at that. Look at that. It's faster. Just get that instead if you have to. I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend even considering an 8GB card at this price range, but if you must, at least get a 3070. It's faster, and you could probably find it for cheaper too. It's horrendous. And even before all of this stuff, okay, when we had older generation cards still available, you could get a 6700 XT. Hell, you could probably still find them. It's harder to find them in Australia. So you could find this card back in maybe like 6 months ago, around $550, okay? So, first of all, that's cheaper than any 4060 Ti. Performance comparison, you're basically dead on that performance. You're maybe like 5% slower, okay? But you're getting 12GB of VRAM. If you're buying a card at this price range, you're gonna be wanting to play 1440p gaming. And I'm gonna be honest, even now you can't even do that on a 4060 Ti. You're gonna run into problems. We've seen so many games that are just not optimized for this, and hell, give it 2 years, you might even struggle to play 1080p games. The current gen consoles have 16 gigs of VRAM. Like, what the Guys, is it really that hard to release a graphics card that's good value for the money? Is it really that hard? All right, so you're like, Aussie, shut up, okay? You prove your point, but I can't find a 6700 XT anymore. What am I supposed to buy? Good fucking question. Let me answer that for you because it's really easy, okay? What I'm gonna do is, if you're in Australia right now, there are still places selling RX 6800s, okay? You can still find them, and they're selling for, well, $699. So for $699, you can buy an RX 6800. Now, performance, we're looking at around 20% faster. Of course, you ray tracing, but let's be honest, at this price range, you're only going to be slightly doing some ray tracing stuff. You're not going to be able to do path tracing in Cyberpunk, for God's sake. Get a hold of yourself. But even a better option, if you want something newer gen, okay, a 7700 XT. Simple. Probably around the same $700. 12 gigs of VRAM, you're set for another 2 years. I will admit, 12 gigabytes isn't the best, and I would probably recommend you save a bit more money, grab a 7800 XT, but we're not even to the main point. Please just buy a used graphics card. I feel like with places like eBay now, okay, they've got buyer protection. If someone sends you a flat out faulty card, you have protections. Just go for it. Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that, you might be able to get better deals. Obviously, you have to deal with the risk of that, like, that person can just delete their account, run away, like, you're never gonna see them again, and they sold you a fucking paperweight. But eBay and other auction sites have fucking buyer protection. Take advantage of it, get a used card for a cheap price. I got this 5700 XT, okay? 200 Australian dollars. What a fucking steal. If you were building a PC at low end price range, you wanted like to buy a 3060 for double the price, yeah, but pretty much the same, isn't it? Honestly, this leads into a bigger problem with current gen 8GB cards even existing at the 4060 range. I understand that Nvidia were like, look, we want the 4060 to target 1080p. Shut up, fucking stop. That is ridiculous. The 3060 had 12GB of fucking memory and it had a larger fucking memory bus, bro. You're putting limitations that don't need to be here. When was it decided that a 60 class card was a 1080p card? Where the fuck did you pull that from? The 4060 is fast enough that you could maybe dip into 1440p gaming. 4060 Ti is well into that range, but because you've slapped it with 8GB of memory, like absolute morons, people can maybe do that for a year. Maybe on some older games, new games start coming out. Whoops, your fucking textures aren't loading. Whoop. AMD, don't think you're safe from this too. I know that I think current gen 7000 series is generally just better value all around at every single price tier, except maybe currently with the XTX because the 4080 Super came down in price. AMD fucked up too. They went on so much last generation about, oh, Nvidia doesn't put enough VRAM on our cards. Look at this RX 6800, it's got 16 gigs. Well, that's fantastic. So why release the 7600 with 8GB of VRAM? What are you doing? That doesn't make any fucking sense. I know they made the 7600 XT. For an extra $50 US, you get 16 gigs of VRAM. So they only increase the clock speed of the card, no extra cores, barely like what, maybe 5-10% extra performance at most? I know it's not as much as $100 US price tag slap on another 8 gigs of VRAM for the 4060 Ti, but still it doesn't make any sense. These cards should all be minimum 12 gigs, even entry level. The fact that consoles now have 16 gigs mean they don't have to care anymore. Okay, use up all that memory, use all of it up, and then everyone on what, like fucking 4060s can't play the games in 2 years because what, a PS5 is trying to play games at 1440p? At 1440p and 1080p, I know they can do 4K, but like realistically, they're not playing 4K very well. 1080p, 1440p are their main resolutions, and if they're not going to optimize for 8GB, then why release mid-tier cards that have 8GB of VRAM? The consoles have effectively, if you wanted to compare something similar, around a 6700 XT, 5700 XT, and they've got 16 gigs of VRAM, okay? So performance there is around a 4060 Ti, not that much more than a 4060, maybe like 20% more. And you've slashed the VRAM in half. You've got 8GB. If you don't see how this is going to be a big problem coming in the next 2 or so years, I don't know what to say to you. This is a problem. 8GB cards in general, they're gonna die out. They're not gonna be able to do anything anymore except CS, Valorant, stuff like that. Anything modern that you want to play, well, you gotta upgrade your GPU. But seriously, do not buy a 4060 Ti. If you must use DLSS and those features and you don't want to fork up the money for a 4070, you probably should get the 16GB version. There are some fairly cheap-ish. I see the cheapest one here for $679. It's about 100 Australian dollars more. So that's probably around 450, 440 US dollars. If you must, at least get one of those, okay? If you're looking at this price range, you gotta go used or you gotta go AMD at the moment. Like, it's a simple option. Do not buy a 4060 Ti 8GB, and Nvidia and AMD need to stop making 8GB cards at this level, and hopefully we're not having this conversation again in the next year or so when they release new cards, because I mean, to be honest, I've already lost all trust pretty much in both companies and how they manage their GPUs, but seriously, this is real bad. If you guys did enjoy this today, be sure to leave a like. It's my new tech channel. We've got new videos coming out, so make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys all in the next video.